All right, long balls here, Friday, February 14th. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Bombshell news came out yesterday. Took me by surprise, and quite a few folks in the American soccer world. United Soccer Leagues announced plans to launch a Division I men league in direct competition with Major League Soccer. They already have a Division II, Division III, and pre-professional levels. And they speculate with the hopes down the road, perhaps to adding a pro rel system. But the big news coming out here this week, Division I in the plans for USL.
Okay, I'd like to say you are not factually incorrect at any point in what you just said, Robert, but there's no mention of pro rel in this announcement. There's no mention of pro rel over on the USL website with the Division I FAQs, right? They don't say we're doing pro rel. They're not even saying we're doing this because we want to do pro rel. Now, USL has in the past mentioned pro rel as a possibility. Back when Jake Edwards was in charge, since Paul McDonough has taken over as their president, they have said, we're thinking about it. We're going to maybe put it to a vote of our owners, but it's always been tabled and then they don't actually move forward on it. So I don't want anybody to get overly excited. Because I think this is catnip for American soccer fans. The idea of promotion and relegation coming to America, right? This thing about, oh my God, we're finally going to get some form. Now, pro rel exists in amateur leagues around the country locally. Nobody thinks of that as, meaningful pro rel. What we want is a professional expression of what pro rel can be,
or even connect
USL,
those regional leagues all the way up, so those regional leagues are in some way connected through a various pipeline to the top, all in one direction, right?
Sure, there's lots of problems with geography and costs and travel and stadiums and all those things, but
yeah.
Maybe we'll kick that can down the road. We're going to talk about how USL might actually pull this off with John Morrissey, because he did the work on looking at the clubs that USL currently has in place. And we will talk about professional league standards with John, because that's really what this is all about. Do you meet the standards? But this is from Alex Papadakis, the CEO of USL. Today is a defining moment for the USL, the future of soccer in the United States. Which, way to raise the bar, Alec. Can't go much higher than that. It's a defining moment for the future of soccer in the United States. Creating a Division I league is a bold step forward, expanding access to top-tier competition, deepening the connection between our communities, and taking another step in aligning with the structure of the global game. Now, if you want to read between the lines, you can read that part, aligning with the structure of the global game, and you can say, well, he's talking about pro rel. But he doesn't explicitly say pro rel, Rob. By uniting people through soccer and bringing Division I to more cities, we're not just growing the sport, we're creating lasting opportunities while building a more sustainable and vibrant soccer ecosystem in the United States. Okay, it all sounds very nice, Robert, right? It sounds. What do you think about those words that Alec has gifted us on a Wednesday, or Thursday?
It certainly is not a boring thing to drop into the news feed on a Thursday, and the fact that there is some, I guess, over the last few years, it's like, what could USL do to differentiate themselves? What can they do to break beyond their current system? I mean, over time, they have, established some solidity. Some teams have been around for a few years now. They still lose some teams every now and again. Still, Memphis, Northern Colorado, they dropped off. But there are teams that are establishing a little bit of solidity. So it's not obviously perfect yet. But over time, I mean, they needed to make a move. And Division I sanctioning, being in direct competition with Major League Soccer, which they never really have, because they had a competition, or had an agreement. For many years during the NASL, they were cooperative. Then they've been separate, and now they're perhaps shifting to competitor.
Would they be a competitor? Would they? I say that as a cynic about a lot of things in American soccer, because I've been around for a couple minutes. If you've been around for more than a couple years, you kind of go, you learn to see stuff like this and go, wait, yeah, okay, show me. Don't tell me, show me. Now, I say that, but partly because, again, they've talked about pro rel, but don't explicitly mention pro rel. They talk about access to the Division I, but don't actually say they want to compete with MLS. Right, there's been, I'm not going to say mixed messaging, but I think they've been careful not to do what the NASL did during their big push to move into MLS territory, so to speak. Basically, like, we know how to do soccer better than you know how to do soccer. Your way of doing soccer is the wrong way to do soccer, which is the history of American soccer is some wealthy people telling other wealthy people, your soccer's bad soccer, I have better soccer. And we've never really, coalesced all of these things into one big pot, Robert. So, again, I don't want to say that there's not something here, that there's no meat on this bone. I just need them to show me rather than tell me.
The press release goes on a little further. I mean, there's a little bit of, jargon, but I think it does reveal it's like the kind of riding that fence of teasing the pro rel idea, but not explicitly saying it. Papadakis adds that the USL model empowers clubs with greater autonomy and fosters dynamic, interconnected, one that allows them to compete at the highest levels while remaining deeply rooted in their communities. Around the world, top-tier clubs thrive in cities of all sizes, and we believe the same is possible here. The demand and infrastructure are in place, and the potential for growth is immense.
Okay. This is the thing you can say about the USL. Remember, USL is a business, and they are interested in growing their business, right?
No doubt.
Whatever their thing about, like, we want to grow American soccer, that's only important as part of growing their business. It's not to say they don't care about the game, but I'm saying anybody who runs a business is most interested in success as a business. So, and then again, this is something levied against Major League Soccer in the way it operates in America. Like, oh, they're always doing stuff in their own best interest. Well, duh, they're a business. That's what they do. That same thing for USL. But I guess what we need to figure out is why it's important to have a D1 league at the top of this chart of things that USL has going on. They have this interconnected system, he says. They could institute Pro Rel tomorrow if they wanted to. Now, you'd have to get every owner on board. You'd have to get everybody who owns an independent club, or a wholly owned club as opposed to a single entity model of Major League Soccer. And even in Major League Soccer, obviously, the people who are shareholders have to vote to approve things. They'd have to find a way to get everybody on board with the idea of you could go down and lose a bunch of revenue, or play against teams that are in different places, or lose your biggest rivalry for a season or 2 or 3 or 5. Like, those are scary things in American soccer. When you are running very, very small margins, if you are making any money at all. And John Morrissey points out in his story at USL Tactics about the idea of a D1 league and how it could work for USL, that Detroit City, which we think of as an extremely successful lower division soccer team in America, loses millions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do Pro Rel and have these teams survive? Now, again, you have to rip the Band-Aid off and try it, or we'll never know if it works. Right? We will never know if it works. So it's not my money. So it's easy for me to say, hey, USL, go do it, because I want to see what happens. I'll be standing on the sidelines watching your whole thing go up in flames, or watch it, soar into the stratosphere, and I'll get to talk about it. That'll be great for me. But man, I don't, again, so it's not that there aren't benefits to being D1, but they are not clear enough that this move is like, oh yeah, duh, of course they're doing this, if you know what I mean, Rob.
Of course, and we shall dig into this more. We are due to be joined by John Morrissey at USLTactics.com at 10:15 Eastern Time to dig into this further installment of Soccer Wars.